Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks everyone for joining the session today. We've got a great session planned ahead of us. It was a very interesting topic for a lot of people. So we'll go ahead and get started with this webinar. So to get started, I just want to introduce who's going to be leading these sessions today. So myself, accompanied by Stefano. Stefano Pirinotto is part of our solution consulting team, specifically dedicated for two solutions, so workplace service delivery and health and safety. Myself, I'm part of the outbound product management team, and I also cover workplace service delivery and health and safety. We'll both be presenting today, showing you different aspects of the product, going through a couple of demos to really inspire you as to what WSD can do. Before we get started, even though everything we're going to cover today and show is available out of the box, there'll be no customization, really out of the box capabilities. I do want to mention the safe harbor, just in case we do allude to roadmap capabilities that would be coming in the future. Those might change in terms of scope, in terms of timing of when they get released. So do want to mention that this session is still under safe harbor. This session is part of a broader session, so a bigger piece of different sessions that happen through the 360 exchange. I do recommend that if you're not already following the community page or keeping up with all the different events that actually happen that we organize on multiple different topics. So it could be workplace service delivery, could be health and safety, could be other products from ServiceNow that you might be interested in. I do recommend scanning the QR code to make sure that you can get notified as soon as any of those topics come out with sessions that you could attend. Before we get started, a couple of housekeeping rules. This session, so it'll be Stefano and I leading, and no one will be coming off mute, so you're automatically muted upon entry. However, if you do have questions, we want to make sure it's interactive. We can answer your questions during the session. There's a dedicated Q&A chat that you'll be able to see. Please post your questions in there. We do like to know who you are. If you want to introduce yourself, share a bit about your organization and what you're experiencing and the experience you're trying to deliver to your employees. This session will be recorded. It will be posted in about a week's time via the community. So the community forum really is that one location where you can get a lot of information regarding every different product. You'll be able to find different blogs, different questions that customers might be asking on there, submitting ideas, but also seeing the recordings of these sessions. After the session, we will be prompting you as soon as you leave the Zoom, you'll be able to complete a quick survey. We really appreciate your feedback. This really helps us understand what are we doing right in these sessions, what needs to be changed, what would benefit, what sessions could you get benefit out of, what topics do you really want to look into. So this would definitely help us if you could take a few moments to fill out that feedback survey. Having said all of that, let's now move on to today's agenda. So what we'll be going through, just because I'm not too sure as to how people join today. Are you already implementing? Are you live with workplace service delivery? So really giving you a brief overview of the complete solution. Of course, this session is really dedicated to one specific pillar of the solution, which is everything around defining that workplace experience to not only your employees, but also visitors. How can you make sure you're delivering the right tools for them to be productive, make sure they can request anything where needed, and make sure that they can have this via different platforms. Once we've gone through all of that, so of course I mentioned we'll be having a couple of demos throughout, so it's not only speaking to slides of what the capabilities are, Stefano will also take us through some demos of how the employee would actually interact with the system. We'll then at the end close out with a couple of available resources of if you want to learn more about this, we have a lot of content available that you can learn more. Also use the Q&A function, and if we don't get time to go through all the questions and you do want to follow up with us with a couple of questions, we'll make sure that you can find our contacts easily to be able to do so. So having said all of that, we're going to move on to really showcasing you a brief overview of what is workplace service delivery. So people that aren't so familiar or have not yet interacted with the system, really workplace service delivery aims at catering for the workplace. This could be the workplace experience as to what you're delivering for your employees, for your visitors, for your agents, really providing them with the tools and meeting them where they're at. So this could be throughout different solutions. This could be the mobile device. This could be through a desktop experience. We'll see that we have multiple different channels of where an employee can go and interact with the system. And then we have some other main pillars to the solution, which really will revolve around the workplace management. So how are my facility teams, how are my space planners really making sure they're tracking everything within the workplace? Because we all know that to provide the best workplace experience to employees and visitors, we need to make sure we're catering for them in a way that we know what space we've got. We know how we're setting up the space. We know how we're assigning our employees. We know everything that's revolving around that workplace. That could be maintenance cases. We know how much those workplace actually cost us in terms of lease. Tracking all of that information within one system will help the organization really provide that great experience you want to have for your employees. So the part that we're focusing on today is really around that employee experience. I want to say something that really caters for all of that and really adds to this experience is really the underlying data layer. So the data layer of making sure that system can integrate with multiple different systems. So making sure the experience is available through Outlook, making sure that we're connected really if you've got sensors or real-time data that you want to provide to not only your employees, but also your facility teams, really enabling them to have that real-time data into the platform. So we do have a lot of those capabilities. We're not going to focus on those today, but we will share more information if needed. So just highlighting right now, this is really the part that we're going to be focusing on. We're mainly, just to name the applications that are under this piece, is we'll be focusing on workplace reservation management, workplace case management, workplace visitor management, and workplace concierge. So those applications will really help your organization define that experience for employees by providing them with the tools they need to really simplify the actions they take within the workplace. Now moving on to how does workplace service delivery really define the vision of the employee? We really want to provide a simple experience for the employee to really be able to be productive in the job they do. We don't want them spending too much time submitting a request, asking for something, making a reservation, registering a guest. We don't want them going to different platforms. We want this all accessible within one location and in a minimal amount of clicks, making sure they can collaborate and use their real time to actually get their work done. How does WSD work for the employee? As I mentioned over the past few slides, is really meeting them where they're at, providing all of this experience to where they would spend their day. Do your employees spend their time on the employee center? Do they usually go around with their mobile? Maybe your employees really travel often. They need to have all of this accessible to them on their mobile. Maybe they spend their days in Teams and Outlook. Making sure that you provide the way for them to reserve directly from those tools really helps them be efficient and make sure all of the information is captured and making their day lives easier, and then providing them with a big amount of capabilities in terms of making reservations, opening case, making sure they're collaborating, finding the best time for them to go into the workplace, making sure they go to the workplace with a specific purpose of meeting collaborators, meeting friends in the office, making sure that they find that best time. So having said that, what we really want to discuss here is understanding what an employee needs. So when an employee is trying to, where can I find what are the best days for me to go in the workplace? What events are happening in the workplace? When's my team going into the workplace? I can understand that really. We'll go through the demo and show you exactly how that would look like. But it's also an employee could ask, I've got a client that needs to come to the workplace, but I know my workplace has strict policies. How can I easily register my visitor? Where do I go about doing that? How simple is it for me to do that? How can I make sure they comply with policies? How can I easily book a meeting room? I've got a meeting the next day. How can I simplify that booking of a meeting room? Making sure when my visitors come in, I want to include catering, make sure they feel welcome, provide all of that without having to go to multiple different systems. So the idea behind that is really understanding every question that an employee will have in terms of where can I get a parking space? Where can I get a specific locker? Something's broken in my meeting room that I just booked. I need someone to come and fix it. How can I, I'm not going to pick up the phone and say, hey, can someone come and fix this? How can I simplify all these processes to really provide that best experience to the employee? And this starts with also understanding how an employee will interact with a specific workplace. And interacting with a specific workplace does not always start from being in the workplace. This could also start from being at home, being on the way to an office, understanding when should I go into the office. Then once I'm in the office, something's broken. How do I report that? How do I book a space? I'm walking around the office right now. I haven't booked a space. I'm on the phone. I need to find a quiet area to really speak to my customer on the phone. How can I look at a map to really understand? I need to go and meet with a colleague. They mentioned they were in a separate building. I've never been to that building. How do I get to that building? How can I look at a map to be able to visualize that? So the idea is really to think as an organization, how are my employees interacting with the workplace? What are the general needs that they usually have? How can I provide these different experiences to them in a simplified way through the way that they would generally interact with the workplace. So that could be on mobile, on laptop, or it could be directly via Outlook, via Teams, via Slack, providing that experience straight to them so they don't have to go and look for where they need to take these actions. So having said all of that, I'm now going to hand it over to Stefano to take us through really a demo of how this experience would look like directly, or of how an employee would interact with the system. Over to you, Stefano.
Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah, let me share if do you see my screen?
No.
No? You should. I'm sharing. Don't you see my screen? Yes. Yeah, you see? Okay, thanks a lot, everyone. So okay, a lot of up fingers or thumbs, so I think thumbs up. So thanks a lot. So what I'm going to show today during this webinar, so thanks a lot to everyone to be here, is the experience of the employees, as Elizabeth was mentioning. The experience in a day in the life of employees, as Elizabeth was saying, could start everywhere, in the mobile, in the desktop, at home, and in the bus station or whatever. But the first thing that for sure I want to mention to you is that all the employees can have a look at specific microsite, specific page, where they can have everything they can need related to their office. Information about the office, upcoming events, workplace news dedicated to their location, not everyone, but their location, or maybe explore the workplace that they need to visit. Maybe also some lunch menus if they need to have a lunch and to request a lunch on that. But the first thing that's for sure they need to do is to plan their presence in the office. And of course, when you think of an employees that needs to plan their presence in the office, so I will need to work remotely, I need to work in the office, I will not work at all, nowhere. The first thing that you have in mind is that how these people can make the decision to be in the office or not. There are so many variables that they need to take in consideration about that. First thing is about work, something that needs to do. But for sure, one thing is that they need to take in consideration to decide if to go to the office or not in a specific day is about the collaborators, if the collaborators will be in the office or not. For example, the selected collaborators that I have in my team is something that for sure I noticed that everyone will be at the office on Friday. So for sure, I would like to change my preference and say that also next Friday, I want to go to the office because all my team, all the people that I'm collaborating with will be in the office. But the system do more, because what they do is just to suggest collaborators. Depending on the collaboration that I have in the past with my teams, they're suggesting, hey, maybe you need also to take a look on what's going on the planification and scheduling about Natasha or Edel or Ennis that they need to take, because this is something that we need to take into consideration when you are scheduling your presence in the office. So all this kind of stuff, both from my collaborator, from the proactively suggested by the intelligence behind in the system, in the solution, help me and guide me to define when I will be in the office or not, when I want to go to the office or not. But even more, the system can also propose proactively some suggestions, some recommendation, depending on what's happening in the office. Some events, for example, or anything that you need to be aware of to help me and guide me to say, hey, this is a good job, this is a good day to go to the office, because there are a lot of people there, and there are also not only a lot of people collaborators, but also that specific event. So you have 100% of my recommendation to be in the office, not to work remotely, for example. So for sure, I will decide on Friday to be in the office, or to be in the office. So what I need to do is just to make a reservation. Once again, there will be a lot of ways in which people can and employees can create a reservation. For example, one of my favorite one is a quick reservation stuff. Depending on no matter if I need to reserve a desk or a conference room or a locker or parking or whatever, I can say I need a specific desk, for example, for tomorrow, for a specific slot, could be all day. And the system, one can say, propose me the best match. Best match, once again, intelligence behind that decision, that proposing, that suggests me the best match depending on my favorite, on everything that can be taken in consideration to propose me what is the best fit for me, okay, to propose. But what I want to show today is another way in which you can reserve. Remember that I just change my preference to be in the office or working remotely on to working in the office tomorrow. So here appear immediately a button to say make reservation. And this is the most complete experience that the employees can have to reserve a space, to reserve something. Really, really, really important. You are completely autonomous to define who can reserve what and how and when. The what could be a conference room, a desk, locker, a parking, a seat in the canteen, an entire space or an event space, whatever you need to let the employees be able to reserve. And it's also not only, but when you research something, you can have multiple ways in which you can browse and search the most perfect spaces that you need. You can browse all available space, okay, on that using maybe the interactive floor map, but maybe you can also define, for example, browse near a person. You need to find a specific space as near as possible to one of my colleagues, once again related to the collaboration stuff that we just saw, or maybe browse by neighborhood, or even more browse by area, browse by switch if you define that. So there are multiple ways in which you can search and browse, also using filtering, for example, the best fits for you, the most accurate spaces that fits all your needs on that. Capacity, for example, the standard services, reservable purposes, everything that can help me to find that. This interactive floor map is something that guided me a lot and helped me a lot in finding in view what exactly is reservable and available for reservation for me. But you can also take advantage of the card view or the schedule view, depending on your preference on navigate and search and reserve what you are looking for. I really love this one. I select this one. Is available. Okay, it's something that for me is completely cover all my needs, so I can add to my basket, because of course I can also reserve multiple items at the same time, maybe cross buildings, for example. I need to reserve maybe multiple spaces for all the people that I need to invite from a collaboration point of view. The second step on the reservation is just to do a more clarification and setting up on what I need for that reservation. I can maybe make it as a private, I can add a subject, I can add more information for the people that I will invite to that specific, for example, Emily's Colin, one colleague of mine, that she will receive a notification with all the information that I can specify here, and with the location and all the timing, all this kind of stuff. They will receive that kind of notification. But even more, I can request within that kind of reservation specific additional services. These services, once again, you are completely autonomous to define and configure that. And so, for example, you can say that, for example, I need to celebrate something, so I want to order a champagne for this specific meeting that I need to reserve. And for each specific service, you can define multiple things: the cost, or, for example, you can define a preparation time and post time. So it means that if you reserve something that's include the services that require 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after to be working, they will be automatically setting up blockers for this kind of stuff. And also you can specify leading time. You cannot request the lunch just 1 hour before, of course, the meeting. This is just the basic configuration that you can do by yourself. And you can add more service. You can add equipment, you can add catering support, you can have transportation, whatever type of services that you need to request within that kind of reservation. And as soon as I submit a reservation, multiple things, of course, could happen. Could happen that I can, for example, can remove that, can be requested a check-in is needed, or maybe an approval is needed, depending once again on the configuration that I did. And all the time I can also change the location, change the details, change everything related to that kind of reservation. But this is only the first way in which you can reserve something and maybe have the experience in the desktop. The other things, they can look also the time, sorry, just to be so long, Elizabeth, but another things that you can do is just to use the mobile. Sorry, one thing that I didn't mention. Probably there was some question because I saw Elizabeth typing. This is the automatic bidirectional integration with Outlook Exchange. So probably one of the things that is happening right now when I submit and I confirm the reservation, that Outlook Exchange or whatever calendar provider that you have will be automatically synchronized, and also vice versa. This is really, really, really important. But let me just try to share my let's hear my of course I don't know what you are seeing right now. Do you see my mobile, or do I see your, or are you seeing
We're
my...
seeing your mobile screen.
Okay, perfect. So another things that you could do here is just to use the mobile. When you use the mobile, the first thing that you could do, so imagine, depending on the story that also Elizabeth was telling, so I just telling that on Friday we'll be in the office, I just reserve a space in the office, and now it's the day. It's the day and I am in the office. And when I am in the office, the first thing that I need to do is just maybe I have a QR code that I need to scan. And when I scan the QR code, I can do a lot of things. This is QR code of the meeting room that I just reserved. And when I reserve, I can do multiple things, okay? I can, for example, get direction or can do things. But what I want to do right now, because I went to that room, to my desk, to the conference room, to the space that I just reserved, but there is something that is not correct depending on the request, or something that I need to raise as a request for to the workplace team. Because for example, in this case, I noticed that there are some cables that are missing. So I want that as soon as possible. This is something that should be working. So missing cable here. Sorry, missing cable. And you can specify this format also again can be adapted as per your need. You can also link some specific equipment. You can be guided in some specific contextual guide or knowledge article that you can show up contextually with the things that you are setting up here. And you can also make it more precise. In the same way that I'm raising a request right now related to a missing cable related to the reservation that I did, you can, in the same way, you can operate requests like it's too hot, it's too cold, the projector is not working, something needs to be cleaned, something is broken, I need a new additional chair, whatever you need to request to the facility team. And this will be worked to the facility team thanks to the, let me say, all the automation workflow and Workplace Central, but there will be another webinar on that. So I just submit the case, and this will be worked as soon as possible to the by the facility team. The last thing that I want to show you is that
I'm going to interrupt you. Sorry, Stefano. For those who are not seeing the mobile view from Stefano, at the top of the Zoom, you should be able to select which screen you're seeing. Make sure
okay.
that you've clicked on the mobile option.
Thanks a lot, because I'm sharing both. So maybe I can just try to interrupt the sharing here, and maybe now you will see only the mobile, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot, Elizabeth. Another things that I want to, of course, I want to share with you. So I am the office. I am at my desk, but there are someone call me, say, hey, there is a meeting that you need to go you go run here because we need your support on that specific meeting. We are here. And we see, yeah, but here, what? I'm pretty new, or the office is too big, so I need to be guided to go there. So one thing that you can do is just to use the location directory capability that we have in the mobile. Why? Because as soon as you find a way to do that, so you say, okay, they just inform me that they need to go to the Sydney Harbour meeting room. So use that is something that you see, this is the place where I need to go. And what I need to do here is just to, sorry, it needs to, this, come on. This is just, okay, I don't need you anymore. This keyboard is something that, okay. What I need now is to get direction. Come on. Okay, I succeed to do this. Sorry, it's an Android. And what I do here is just that now I need to select where I am. And for example, I am in the floor 2 right now, and I can select exactly where I am. And exactly in the Google Maps style mode, a route where it's suggested to me to be followed. In this case, I suggest to take the stair, but of course, we take in high consideration also the possibility, the accessibility needs. So what they can do is just to say, no, I have accessibility needs, and you see that the paths are recomputed, they are recalculated, and now they will suggest to take the elevator instead of the floor. So I can just follow the navigation path in the same way that is done on the Google Maps experience, so to be sure to reach the place that where I was invited. If I'm not wrong, Elizabeth, I show everything. Did I forget anything? If not, I hand over to you.
Oh, that was perfect. Thank you very much. I'll take over the screen share. And I love that there's a lot of great questions coming into the chat. So if you have any more questions, we'll continue responding to them. And if we don't have the chance to respond to them all, we'll make sure to get back to you after the session. So that was everything in terms of how can we provide some of those services to the employee, making sure they can really have access to everything on desktop and on mobile. So everything Stefano showed, whether it was on desktop and mobile, just know that all those experiences are available through both of them. You have also the possibility to integrate some of those directly into Teams or into Slack, depending on, do you really want to provide that experience to them where your employee is at? Does it make sense to have them there? That is totally up to you. So what Stefano shared was what is available out of the box today. So if you have access to those plugins, you can definitely test some of those things out. If you already have them in production, it's great. If that helped you inspire, that is also amazing. So now looking at the workplace experience is not only about catering to your employees. Employees are a great part because they spend their day-to-day in there. It's the organization, it's the brand image. Brand image is also reflective on visitors, making sure that an employee can have really an easy way of inviting a visitor, making sure that visitor is compliant to everything the organization has in terms of policies, in terms of making sure they have all the information before showing up to the location is a big part of that visitor experience. And that visitor experience does not only start when the visitor shows up to the workplace, but also starts for them at home. When an employee invites a visitor, for instance, to a specific reservation, they will get all the information related to that reservation, where they need to show up, where they need to go, making it easier for them to really understand what is required from them. If a guest gets registered without a reservation, they will also receive the detailed information for them to know what day they expected and where they would need to go. If an organization has strict policies in terms of every visitor needs to comply to a certain policy before showing up at location, this is also triggered to the visitor. So really providing them with all the information they need when they're at home before coming to the workplace. And then this experience continues when they do show up in the workplace. And we're going to go through some of these pieces today. So really understanding how can I provide this experience to my visitor to make sure they can understand the brand image of my organization, make sure they can self-serve, they can get all the information and can have that fully guided experience from receiving the notification at home to showing up in the workplace, meeting with the host that invited them, and then continuing to leaving the organization, making sure that's a smooth flow. So understanding visitor management is going through what do we have today available through our solution. So Stefano mentioned a couple of pieces, mainly around the reservation. I can include people to reservations and have them receive all the information. If I don't go through a reservation, I could simply say I'm hosting an event within the workplace, or it's a family day in the workplace, or it's a come and visit the workplace, having clients in to really discover the workplace. I don't have to have a reservation. I could just register them and have them show up on a specific date for whatever purpose I'd like. Having to do that both on mobile and on desktop, and we'll go through that in a short demo. It's also all about providing them with what they're going to need within the workplace. If they're coming to a meeting to your workplace, they don't have the credentials, the internet won't automatically check them in terms of they won't automatically be able to be connected to the Wi-Fi. So making sure that you're providing all the information to them in terms of Wi-Fi, in terms of parking spaces, any specific requirements as someone might have, you can the employee can define this as they register those specific visitors. And then the whole process goes along to the visitor to be able to utilize some of the tools that we'll go through in just a minute. And for then the receptionist, which plays a key role in terms of the visitor management, is for them really to understand through dashboards and through the information that gets provided to them who is expected. Understanding how many people are coming to my workplace today. Do I need to have more people at my reception? Do I have 15 people coming at 10 o'clock that I need to make sure we have a good welcome set in place for them? So we need more people to cater for that. We're going to need more people to print badges, really understanding per location what's happening. Do those employees need parking? As a receptionist, I need to make sure that parking spaces have been made available for them. They might need to have a badge printed with Wi-Fi on it. I need to make sure that all of this is set up. So this is going to be a fluid experience for really when that visitor comes to the workplace. So we have a whole set of capabilities, but today we'll be really focusing on how does an employee register in a couple of clicks, a visitor to come to the workplace, and then following on to what that experience would look like for the visitor as they show up to the workplace. So a big component to this is one of our newest capabilities within visitor management. Really a big investment we've made in terms of delivering new capabilities is what we'd call the kiosk experience. Kiosk experience, I want to focus on the visitor portion, but we'll also discuss some other use cases of how an employee can also take advantage of having these kiosks set up in the workplace. So really the kiosk is something that can be totally tailored to your organization in terms of brand image, making sure you can configure it. You define the background, you define the logo, you define the flows that are available for the kiosk. The kiosk really serves as a self-service system for the visitors to when they come to the workplace. They can either go to a receptionist, have a conversation with a receptionist to have them check in, or if the organization wants to have more of a hybrid mode of we have visitors that come in quite a lot, they know the workplace, so they could really just go and check in by themselves. This kiosk will serve that purpose. They can just walk up to it, check in with the information they received by email, understanding why they came to the office and who they are so that the system can identify them and can update the receptionist dashboard and make sure that we have that information that they've checked in so they're in the right location and notifying the hosts. Providing them with those capabilities to also be able to switch languages. So you've probably got a lot of global offices throughout the globe. Not everyone would speak English or the specific language of the country. You have an easy way to switch it across those different languages on the kiosk. So providing them with really an experience that can be catered to them depending on what they specifically need. And last but not least is really, if they come to the workplace, they're visitors or they're contractors or there's someone that's not working in the workplace, they're probably not very familiar with your organization. So not familiar with the layout of the building, not familiar of where they need to go. Maybe the host comes specifically to the kiosk to pick them up. But if in your context, no host is needed and the visitor is expected to show up at the specific location you invited them to, they can use that kiosk experience to be able to visualize the actual map of the location to then take action and say, how do I get to the space I've been registered for? How do I get there? How do I find the closest coffee machine? I might want to go to the restroom before going to the meeting. How can I interact with that map and really help me through my journey? So what we're going to do right now is show you briefly what that experience would look like within an instance to really show you the process from an employee registers a specific visitor on a specific day where they're expected to show up in the workplace, and then we'll go through that experience as to that visitors received all the information that they then need to enter the workplace and request certain things. So I'm just going to switch screens and now I'm going to show you the specific demo. So just to recap, an employee can actually register a visitor in several ways. I've got a meeting coming up with a client, so I've got some internal people, I've got some visitors. I can directly book a meeting room and invite them to that specific meeting room. But let's say today the use case is we've got an office day, we've got an open office day, people can come and visit. I've got friends and family coming to visit. What I'm just going to do is register a guest for the day, so not saying they're coming to a specific space, but they're actually coming to the workplace in general. So I have here the option to, I'm right now in the employee center in the workplace services, and I have the option to register a guest. I have this exact same option on my mobile device. So if I'm on the go, I can take these same actions and have the guest registered. So what I'm going to do is create a new registration for this specific guest. I can add a description as to why they would be coming into the workplace. So let's just say family event in the workplace. The specific location of where they'll be coming. So I'm just going to use our demo campus. This is the where they're expected to come. This is a specific building. I could have it as a specific site. I could have it as a specific space I want them to come to. I could have them, it could be they're expected to come. I've got a manufacturing site. They're expected to come to that location. Really based on my location hierarchy I have throughout ServiceNow, you can really define what location will be selected. So you would have a host. So the host is really important. They will be the person that gets notified as soon as the guest appears. So this host, once they register the visitor, all the information that gets sent out, and the visitor is informed that the host is the person that is actually inviting them to the workplace. And we'll go through a detail in a minute about what a co-host could look like. So what I'm going to define here is when is my visitor expected. I'm expecting them to come today. This afternoon, we've got an open office where they can actually come and visit the office. So they're expected today. I can just say it's an all-day event. So it will automatically trigger that time based on how my instance is set up in terms of what does all day look like. Right now, this office building is set from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So I don't have to change any of that. Private note I want to send to the receptionist. So really to inform them on, is this a specific guest that they have to act in a certain way, or is this guest coming with I don't know, let's say a guide dog. I really want to inform my receptionist, and my receptionist has all the information related to this guest so they can take the best care of them and make them feel welcomed, make them feel like it's an individual understanding of what is required for them. So I mentioned here we have also the co-host option. So this is really, if you think about it, I could be a VP of the organization, inviting some visitors into the organization. However, I spend my days in back-to-back meetings. The problem is I might not have the time to go down to the reception to be able to go and greet my visitor. So the idea here is having a co-host. So let's say I have a personal assistant that can actually help me with welcoming the guest. I can have them here as an optional co-host. So when the visitor does show up to the workplace, it will not only notify the host, but it will also notify the co-host that the visitor has arrived in the building and that they are ready to be greeted at the entrance. So continuing down to my registration, I have multiple options here. I have, first of all, an option to invite an external visitor. So this would be anyone that is outside of the organization. Could be a contractor, could be a family member, could be a client. But I also have the option here to invite company employees. So this could be an employee from a different location, a different country. I'm inviting them, registering them to the office to make sure that my receptionist and my facility team know how many people actually be coming into the workplace. So it's always that even though they're from the same organization, if I want to make sure I'm tracking who's expected into the workplace and provide that bigger detail to the facility team and receptionist, is always a good way of tracking this. So let's say for this example, we're going to be inviting a visitor that is outside of the company. For this one, I have two different options. So I have the option of selecting an employee who's already come into the workplace, so where the information will be pre-filled. I can just select throughout this one, someone that's already come. So this means I register them, or someone in my organization register them previously based on my instance and my configuration and the GDPR policies around how long can we retain information for, and the anonymization of the data. This is really defined at the instance level, is really how long is this data kept. So this visitor could mean that they were registered 2 months ago. They could have been registered 2 weeks ago. If they were registered 5 months ago, but I have a data policy of cleaning up all the data every 3 weeks, I wouldn't see them here anymore. They would have been removed from the system, so I couldn't have selected them. So right now, let's say my organization's got a 6 months policy of we retain visitor information for 6 months, and then it gets removed. this Abby has been invited less than 6 months ago, so it's still apparent in the system, so I can easily select her and add her as a visitor. As I selected her, it's pre-filled my the different information on her, specifically her first name, last name, and email address. The email address is really mandatory. This is the unique field that helps identify a specific user, meaning that if I was to add manually a visitor, Abby Scollin, spelt with a T at the end, and Stefano was to do the same, spelt without a T at the end, really it's the email that will be unique throughout all of them. So that's the way we can recognize them and not duplicate some of these registrations. So really providing that way that to make sure that the visitor will receive the email is that unique way of defining them. From here, I have a couple of fields that aren't mandatory. I could pre-fill this really to get an understanding and to track specifically all the information related to, but I could just also give it a pass on this one and continue without it. I have the option to really provide services to my visitor, and I could say that Abby, who's coming in, is coming by car. She needs a specific parking space, and this is not going to create a reservation for her. This is simply going to flag it to the receptionist that's going to say that this person's coming into the workplace on this day. They require a parking space. The receptionist would usually have access to a reservable module specifically for visitor parking, and from there they can say, okay, we're granting her this parking space. I'm making this reservation, and then I'm also including her in that reservation. I can also define that the number plate just to make sure that it's the right car that was going to be parked there. I can make it as a VIP, so VIP could be behind this whole flow of, for VIP, we need to make sure these have a specific experience. It could be anything that your organization wants to configure behind that is really how can we provide that kind of flagship experience to specific people if they require it. And of course, I can say Wi-Fi. This is also going to trigger it to the receptionist to say this person needs a Wi-Fi code when they register. Make sure to give them the Wi-fi. So
Elizabeth, sorry to pause you, but there is some question that probably is really important to answer live. Sorry to pause you on that. So the three main questions related to visitor management right now, this form. So the first one is about is it possible to it's not possible to invite visitor without emails, because
so we would have
emails was mandatory in our form. So the request is that if we can register also without specifying an email.
So an email will always be required, as that's the unique identifier. It always is required. However, if you want more information, if we can provide you with a different way of triggering the creation of a single-use email that is not if your organization does not allow you to track emails of people that aren't within your organization, we can share more information with you on how to generate those emails. So when let's say when you'd register a guest, that would automatically generate a fake email that would provide them with that unique email. However, you need to make sure that your use case, if you don't have the email, how is that visitor going to get notified that they've been invited to the workplace? So that would work in the use case we'll show you in a minute around the kiosk experience. However, this would be more tricky if you want to make sure that these people actually receive the notifications.
Yeah, thanks a lot. The answer is that they might use the phone numbers alone, but not necessarily email. So this is the observation. So I think that is correct. Yeah. The other question is about can kiosk be used to register a user that will need to join multiple consecutive days? Okay, so for example, if in this year I can specify the date and time on 2 different days, is something that it works?
For recurring visitors, that's something that we are still exploring in terms of the product. For now, when you register a visitor.
Yeah, we're speaking about multiple consecutive days. So the visitor is just for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week.
Do you want to take that one then?
No, it's you.
Yeah, so recurring visitors that would come multiple days in a row. We can register those specifically if you want to create a reservation and have them linked. They would definitely, if you invite them as part of the reservation, that can definitely be done. However, for every single day of that reservation, they would receive the same information saying you're expected on this day, you're expected to comply to the policies. On day 2, they would also receive the information saying you're expected on this day, here are the policies. They would always have to comply to those specific policies on if that is multi-day recurring, saying they need to come 3 days in the same week, they would have to always check in and make sure they've completed the policies before entering.
Okay. There's a question related to recurring visitor internet. You already answered to that. The last one related to visitors is there any documentation about the visitor badge printing? Will be there a demonstration on how it works today?
So we're not going to show how the printing works today. We're going to show you on the kiosk how the flow works in terms of how would that be pushed to the receptionist to actually print the badge. We do have that capability out today in terms of basically printing the badge. And I can mention, as this session is under Safe Harbor, we are exploring ways to improve the way that the layout of the badge will actually be done. But for now, always the badge will be printed not from the kiosk, it will always be printed from the receptionist. So the receptionist will trigger the printing of the badge at her location.
Okay, thanks a lot. There are a couple of more questions, but more related to the previous stuff. So I will hand over to you for the next part of the demo, but be sure that we have 5 minutes at the end because we have other couple of questions to answer that I need your support. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Yeah, perfect. So right now I've registered this person who came previously. Just to continue with that, if I wanted to add more people as part of the same registration, let's say I was inviting an entire family, 4 or 5 people, I could definitely go through and add them individually. So what I showed you was someone that came prior, but I could also create a brand new person in here and then define the same information. I can define also here the visitor type. Right now, these are the ones out of the box. So to say, are they a contractor? Are they client or family friends? Do you have other categories? This could really be used also for your reporting in terms of, do you want to track who specifically came to the workplace? What kind of categories, visitor types actually came? You can use that for reporting. So having said that, I'm going to make sure I speed up slightly to really show you the process of right now we've invited visitors. When they show up to the workplace, how can they have that kind of self-guided experience if you want to create that hybrid way of receiving visitors? So when a visitor would actually show up to the workplace, you have the option to have a kiosk. So kiosk is a bigger investment that ServiceNow has made in terms of workplace service delivery and how do we want to elevate that experience, not only for the visitor, but also for employees to be able to interact with maps, make sure they have a self-service experience. So as an example, right now, I am a visitor. I was registered to come to the specific location on this specific day. I walk up to the front of the organization and they have specific kiosks. So what I can do right now is either go straight to the receptionist, identify myself and have her check me in. If I don't have a reception, I could definitely walk up to this specific kiosk and then check in from here. So the different options here, we won't go into detail. This could be a second session of really providing you with how can this be configured. However, what I want to show you today is all the options that can be set on the specific kiosk. So the visitor right now is looking at the kiosk with every single piece of the functionality available to them. So when they walk up to it, the first thing they will do is check in. So checking into the workplace, they can do this in multiple ways. And all this information will be based on the information of the employee when they submitted the specific registration for me. So if I want to check in with the invitation passcode, remember when I said I've been invited to the workplace by an employee, I would get an email saying where I need to show up, what time I need to show up, and where I need to be. As part of that email, we also generate a passcode that can then be used here for checking in. So if I had that email, I could then look directly here and input the code to check in, and that would recognize me based on the email I got. I could also use the option to check in via my email. So as you saw, that's a unique piece that it gets captured as part of the visitor. So I could check in with that. I could check in with the phone number. So great use case of the question we had. If a phone number gets captured, you have the option here to use that to check in. And then lastly, I can also use my name to check in. However, this could vary in terms of if the employee mistyped the name, it might not be recognized. So really the really source of truth here would be the email address or passcode. But of course, all of these options can be defined by the kiosk admin when they're setting up the experience. So what I'm going to do right now is check in using the email address. So I pre-registered myself. So as an employee, I invited me to the workplace. And so what I've done is input the email that has been registered as a visitor. And of course, I was talking for too long, so this timed out and went back to the home screen. This is a great example to show you that that the kiosk will never remain on the same page, and it will always be shown on the kiosk. So I've started an action, I haven't completed it. It's going to go back after a couple of seconds. You can define that time of when it goes back, so the person after me does not get all my information. It just times out and goes back to the main page. So let me go back to inputting my information.
And in the meantime, the question, can we set up just explore workplace functionality without check-in earlier?
Yes, I'll get to that in just 1 minute.
Okay.
So right now I've checked in with the email address that was identified as me, the specific visitor. From there, it's just going to ask me to confirm the information. So I'm the right person that's been invited. This is my specific host that's invited me. What I can do is say, yes, this is the information is correct. This specific organization has policies I need to comply to before I proceed to the next step. So if I was invited in the past, I would also have received this by email. So understanding I acknowledge it via email, and that also updates to the receptionist knowing that I acknowledge and I comply with these policies. If I haven't done that, I would come to the kiosk and have the exact same policies that were sent to me via email, and then have the option here to acknowledge them. Once I've acknowledged those policies, that's when the actions are going to be triggered. So it's going to trigger a notification to the host, but also the co-host that I have checked in, so they can come and collect me at the reception. It's also going to trigger me as a visitor to walk up to the reception. Maybe for this organization, the reception has to print a specific badge for me, so it indicates me to go there, and then it gives me an action for when I'm planning on leaving the workplace of saying, please come and check out, to make sure that you update that reservation dashboard and we know that you're no longer in the building. So having said that, that is the check-in process if I've been invited to the workplace. I just want to briefly go over the steps. If I haven't been invited to the workplace, let's say your workplace has a big event, you've got open doors for everyone to come into the workplace, and they can come and self-register. Just to make sure you capture that visitor information, or you've got a client that comes in, there's 2 people that show up, you've only registered 1, they have the option here to self-register. So self-registering is going to provide them with a way to input all of their information. So if I also do via email address, if I do stefano.p@example.com, this person hasn't been registered. So of course, by inputting that email address, they're not found in the system. So what I'm enabling them to do here, because my kiosk is set up this way, I'm enabling them to register their visit. So creating their own visitor record. So having done that, I'm going to have to input the same information that an employee would input when they do invite a visitor to the workplace. So what I'm going to say is I'm a client, my first name.
Yes, just in the time, if you can speed up because you have one or two minutes left.
Company name, it's not mandatory. The email address is already input because I input it first. So I'm going to continue, and I can see here the steps are moving forward based on all the information I'm inputting. Phone number is not mandatory, so I can continue. Select my host. So right now in this option, I have every single employee because this instance is configured that way. You can totally decide to have this closed down to really list only certain people. You don't want anyone showing up in your workplace and saying, yeah, my host is the CEO of the company, so I'm just going to search for them here. You could say, no, they can only put that you've only got 2 people showing here, and this could be this person. You could only have like the receptionist, a simple user in there that would be notified that someone has checked in at the kiosk. So once I've done that, I can continue. A quick reason of why I am there. It's then going to give me a recap of all the information I have input for me then to continue. So continuing from here, this has moved on to that same experience that the person that did get registered is going to proceed with, acknowledging those same policies and having the same triggering actions to say the host, if that was the receptionist saying, yes, someone's checked in on kiosk, proceed to the next steps, and then they can continue from there. So having shown you all of that, I know there's only 5 minutes left, so we're just going to continue briefly. Option to check out, same thing. They will have the different options here to check out based on their preference. So are they going to use that same passcode, the email address, the name? They can input that and then validate their checkout. One of the newest parts to this is really the Explore Workplace, providing those visitors with a way of visualizing the floor plan of the specific location and understanding where that kiosk is positioned so they can go from there and get directions to maybe the coffee machine, maybe the restroom, understanding where they need to go. So from here, I'm just going to do this briefly. This map is also available to employees. So let's say you didn't want to have all the visitor piece on it. You have a physical receptionist. You want to make sure that's the only way that visitors can interact. They always have a human contact. There's no kiosk piece, or only the map is available to them. This map can also be used by employees to say you want to have a kiosk outside every single elevator. So an employee that is looking for a space to book knows easily where to find that. They can easily find a neighborhood. They can easily raise a case from there, get directions, and easily interact with the map. So what we have here is the option to, right now, all options are enabled. So I have the option to select certain amount of filtering. So I can display my specific neighborhoods. I can display my reservation status. If I had occupancy sensors to show me what rooms are available or occupied, let's say I'm an employee walking around the office, I'm on the phone, I need to find a quiet space, ready to go now. I can easily see that based on the occupancy sensors. And then really to simplify the map, I have the option to select here specific spaces to really simplify the map. So say I only want to see see specific.
Okay. Sorry, because in our time, left so many questions that we need to answer. Sorry. Let's start with the one that's related to the visitor stuff about. So the first one that I is just, is there any specific roles required for visitor to be using kiosk?
So visitors are not counted as part of licensing. To have the kiosk set up, you'd have what we'd call a user that's a kiosk viewer. The kiosk viewer will always be signed in, and it will always be this homepage. Anyone who walks into the workplace can interact with this without having to sign in.
Okay, thanks a lot. Related to the maps for the visitor, can we hide some parts of the map?
Correct. So we have a new view, which is the kiosk view within Map Studio, where you can configure in the view editor, you only want to show them the coffee machine, the waiting area, and the restroom. Everything else is none of their business. They should not see the names of spaces. You can totally define that and then attach it to the map.
Thanks a lot. So this concluded the question about visitors. So let's go back to the first one that is waiting so long to get an answer. So the question is related to the past experience. The question is, how much is the recommended image size to upload for the space photos? So the space picture. Do you have any clue on which is the size of the photo?
Yeah, we can we take the name of that person and get back to them? I need to check our docs site for the specific format.
Perfect. The other question is about the indoor mapping wayfinding capability, and is possible to implement wayfinding functionality without enablement configuring reservations? And if yes, would user need a WSD role to do that and to use wayfinding?
So multiple aspects to that. You'd have to have a map admin configure the map. So the map is then available for the location directory. You don't have to have reservation set up. If you just want to provide the map experience and then to use wayfinding without reservation, without case, you can totally do that. However, to be able to use the map on mobile or on the employee center, an employee would need to be logged in, so have access to a user. They'd have to be a user to be able to utilize that. But if you want to provide it on kiosk, then you just need to have a kiosk viewer to deliver that experience to visitors and employees who walk by that kiosk.
Thanks a lot. I hope that everything is clear. Last question is related to, I suppose, a customer to use the old facility management queue. And the question is that if there is any out-of-the-box way of transferring the case from the facility request to the workplace case. I suppose not, but we are product team. I don't know if there is a specific process or specific criteria that we can suggest to our customer.
Yeah, can we also get the name of that person and follow up with information?
Oh, it's just an anonymous. Yeah, maybe if the one that make this kind of request can reach us separately, we can work together on that.
Yeah. Perfect. So just to close out the session, just because we're at time, I want to make sure everyone's got access to some of the content. If you've got more questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Stefano. We have a lot of content around everything we discussed today, specifically around the docs. If you want the specific information on how to set these capabilities up. On community, you'll find information on what's the latest and greatest. We have 4 releases a year. We've got a lot of innovation coming into the product, so make sure to use the community to look at some of the blogs, but also make sure you stay up to date with the webinars that the team is planning. And then thirdly, we have now created, there's a lot of great assets out there that also explain to you how to get started with WSD, what app should you start with, what should you take into consideration to really build that experience. Apologies we're going so fast here, but I also want to promote our upcoming webinar which is happening on the 3rd of April, which is also related to WSD, and really understanding that the foundations, WSD is a foundation for digital building strategy. So this will be hosted by Brett and Paulina on the team, who will be able to deliver that session and give you a lot more insights around WSD in general. So thanks everyone for joining this session. I hope it was really inspiring for you. As I mentioned, if you've got questions, comments, feel free to come to us.
Last one, the recording will be accessible.
The recording will be available within the week on community.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, and thank you everyone to be here.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.